You got a tough go of life. It happens. It's not nice, it's not fair, but it happens. And the sooner you get past it by deciding that you refuse to be defined by these previous mental models, the better off you're going to be, and the sooner you're going to start making progress towards a new and better life. What is it we do here on the Red Pill? We swap notes. Now, I'm sure a lot of people have heard all kinds of different stories about us, so I'm here to give you a glimpse inside the locker room. Who am I? I'm Ryan. I used to be one of these guys. Just like you, I was good with women and relationships, but I wasn't great at it. And when hard times hit, things got tough, and it turns out there is nowhere for a man to go to solve these problems and learn to thrive. So, we built this space based on the experiences of hundreds of thousands of men just like you. It's men swapping notes, iron sharpening iron. Welcome to the locker room. Depression that I cannot shake. I feel trapped. I have done everything I know how to do. I hate that I was born into this life that is mine. I'm tired of my life. I can't put my past behind me. I want to grow up, but I don't feel like I have it in me to get on with my life. I feel mentally like a kid. Medication and counseling didn't help me when I was a teenager. I'm 25 now. I have good looks, I have wealth, a career, I got a good physique, but my mind is poisoned that my job, my money, my muscles, or my looks don't mean anything. Because I'm just a basket case in general. I have no friends, but I can't make any because I'm so mistrusting of other people because I've been screwed over my whole life by people I trusted. I wouldn't even want friends because my idea of a friend is unrealistic. Especially if you become friends with somebody who's an adult versus meeting as kids or teenagers. I have known about this community for almost 3 years, so I've got a ton of material, books and articles. I'm not new here. I feel like my mother purposely screwed me over, and I'm purposely ruining my view of women. I'm scared when it comes to me being around women because my mom would always test me, get under my skin, or emasculate me. So whenever I'm around women, even my own younger sister, I'm on edge because my mind is paranoid or in an anxious state. The only time I'm confident with women is when I know for sure that they're broken, like me, I guess. Or they have low self-esteem or daddy issues or whatever. I've had some bad stuff come up in my past, and I didn't fully realize how much of an effort this had on my life until now because in the past I've always put it behind me. But now that I'm getting older, turning 25, I notice that something is wrong about me. And I try to trace back how this could have happened, and this is the only logical conclusion. Everything is on track. My work, my body, but my mind is messed. I'm just so sick of this life I live. I can't believe I was born into this. A couple terms before we get started. Mental models and the deep narrative. This is exactly what Op is going through. In this case, he has a couple mental models of the world. And if you don't know what a mental model is, think of the way we think of stories. In our head, we have our own stories. They have archetypes of people in them. They have everything you would need to anchor your decisions from day to day. And in this case, the Op has had a bad run his whole life. I'm not going to argue that. The problem is, these models are happening because of stimuli he received in his formative years, which have really messed him up. The thing about it is, though, what's messing him up more so than these things is that he clings to them like they're a comfort blanket. It's all he knows. And so if you were to try and get him out of this state, which is what he's probably had counselors and clinicians and therapists probably do, he would rather be right than be happy. He would rather be assured of it than otherwise. Your ego is not your friend, and this is a prime example as to why. It's a really horrible situation, and this 10 out of 10 situation you see manifest in most normal guys on a 4 out of 10 level. Always be careful about what you're invested in, because most of the time, if your life's not going well, it's not a helpful thing. Professional help. This one, officially, I'm gonna tell anybody, you should really go see a shrink if you're having these kind of mental health issues. The problem comes with, and this happened when I came talking to guys like Dr. Sean Smith. A lot of mental health is really geared towards the idea that men and women are interchangeable. We have the same mentality, the same solutions to our problems, and because a predominant amount of females are the ones that are going to see these kind of therapy, it's generally catered towards their way of looking at things, which is not helpful for a guy. So when this isn't very helpful to him, but it really is the only professional standards we have, herein lies the problem. And it's the exact same problem that guys like Jordan Peterson had. He was going through a tumultuous time in his life. His wife was sick, his daughter was sick, he was under tremendous stress from his job, so he went to go see the experts. And what did the experts do? They medicated him and they left him to it, to the point where it caused severe harm. So while there's a very important factor here in that medical health professionals can do a world of good, you can't just assume that they're the keystone that will automatically do the work for you. You have to want to change, you have to understand your ego is not your friend, and you have to understand that the way you're looking at the world is really not helpful to you, and so you need to change that up. And I don't even know if this guy's able to change. While it's going to take a lot of work, getting past this stuff is the kind of thing which is an arguably good case for using SSRIs, which are completely overprescripted. If he gets strong feelings about so many triggers, which in this case is usually surrounding women or sex, then being able to mute those while he works on his own mental condition is probably a good thing. What worries me is that professionals have most likely tried this with him already and it's not working. So what can you really do about it? And that's the tricky question to ask, and I don't know if anybody's going to have a proper answer other than him himself. Ego is never your friend. A good way to think of your ego is a manifestation of the mental models that you have and you being invested in them. If you don't know what I mean, or this sounds a little bit esoteric, I'll map it fairly plainly here. The way we look at the world through these mental models creates what's called fast thinking. It's something you don't have to think about. They're shortcuts. Same way you think of rules for life. Very simple things that you can do that make you not have to observe each individual situation and waste a lot of mental energy on things that you can largely fly by on autopilot. For a lot of things, this is good. You go to the gym every day at 6, so you automatically go to the gym without even thinking about it. You always wake up at the same time every morning, so you're waking up at the same time every morning without having to make a conscious decision to do that. But in this case, his mental models and his ego is invested on things that are arguably not in his favor. And the problem is, it's really hard to get out of these ego-invested mental models without some form of trauma. So the question here is, what do you do when a guy already has trauma and the trauma is what created these situations? To which I've never seen an answer that works yet. The only thing, and I mean this sincerely, the only thing I've ever seen work where a guy gets extremely angry and decides to burn all this stuff to the ground and start again. They hold a chip on their shoulder for years, and we've seen, maybe not to this extent, but a lot of guys who literally have done that. They just put on the blinders, they get their work done, and they get extremely angry that the world is against them. They use that to foster their better life, and in this case, he's making good progress towards that. Assuming he's being honest, and I hate to tell you this, but it's the internet, sometimes people lie. But if he's being honest, and he really is lifting heavily, and he is getting his hormones in check from that, he is seeing proper mental health, he is getting medication in the case where he has to really mute some strong emotions that are negative towards him, and he is working at shedding these mental models one step at a time, well, this here might just be a relapse, and it's just going to be something that takes time and dedication to get to. But the only way to know if that's happening is to follow him for extended periods of time, and nobody's going to do that. So it's really on him or any of us individually to do that in our own lives. Otherwise, we're just going to be left to wallow in our own self-pity. My advice for this guy, and I really don't have advice for this guy, so it's going to be advice for us who have this, but to a lesser extent. Seeking medical help, and here's the problem. He's going to get advice from all of his friends and family who still care about him to go see a shrink, to go see medical help. People don't know what to advise, so they point at an authority and say, there, that'll fix him. The problem is, he did that, and it's not working. Nobody wants to take responsibility for helping him get through his life because nobody wants to accept that if they suggest something and it fails, it was their fault. When in reality, he doesn't know where else to turn. Now, maybe 50 years ago, 100 years ago, men had a lot of male figures in their life who could help guide them out of this, but those days are over. Unfortunately, the best thing we have now are guys helping each other by swapping notes over their own individual situations. And it's weird because it's extremely vilified. But I would say in this case, this guy is a prime candidate to be the tip of the spear for guys who have to get past extreme mental hardship and take control of their lives. I wish there was more guys like this, but the problem is these guys get caught up in that wallowing self-pity cycle. Dead bedrooms was like a subreddit that was perfect for it. Guys were in dead bedrooms for years, and they never actually wanted to get better, and they never wanted to tell anybody what they did to get better. They just wanted to wallow in it and sulk in it and enjoy it. If you look at this, I would say the op has a bit of an example of that in his own life. He uses very poetic language for this. It's almost like he has a certain nobility in this damage, and that's the worst attitude to have. If he doesn't listen to anything, just listen to this. This stuff is not a noble martyrdom. This is not something to attach to. Those strong emotions you feel for this are wrong and bad, and they should feel bad. You got a tough go of life. It happens. It's not nice, it's not fair, but it happens. And the sooner you get past it by deciding that you refuse to be defined by these previous mental models, the better off you're going to be, and the sooner you're going to start making progress towards a new and better life. Again, small baby steps. Sometimes, and I know this is goofy because it was from the old mystery days, but guys who had approach anxiety would just walk up to 50 people and ask the time. If he can find a roadmap for this, to slowly practice little things, little trust examples. Ask somebody to hold something for a minute. Ask somebody to do this. Small little incremental steps, you'll be far better off to learn how to shed this massive distrust you've had from a childhood of trauma. So why does this matter for you? I mean, most people aren't going to have this situation. Most people are fairly well-to-do, not a problem in the world, at least not to this extent, and most problems we have are opt-in problems. In this case, the op really did have a problem that had nothing to do with him, and there was nothing he could have done about it. What's in it for us is a little bit of perspective. Yeah, maybe you married a girl you shouldn't have and she left you and took half your money. Yeah, maybe your mom didn't raise you properly and you don't have a very good view of women towards the world. Maybe you dated a single mom and now you're trapped. All of these problems are opt-in. The one thing you can take from this is that it's good for you. You opted into your problems, and so with just as much ease, you can opt out of them. And if you're in the case where you're like this guy and the things that happened were truly not your fault, well, now that you know they're not your fault, you don't have to be responsible for them and you can move on. There's a little bit of lemons into lemonade. I don't think I have an alternative for this guy. I mean, he's doing a lot of what he should do. The only thing I would suggest is stop emoting your feelings too much. Because that's the problem with this stuff. When he sends out these sympathetic, heartfelt pleas, and they very well are. They're very sympathetic. They're no different than a lot of damaged and broken women would use. The idea is it garners sympathy, but it reinforces what's happening that caused it. So if you really want to get out of this mindset where you think this thing is that chip you have to bear on your shoulder, I don't want to say ignore it as if it didn't exist, but stop using it to seek validation. As soon as you start doing that, it's going to be a small step of the way to removing it as an important mental model in your life. So as an alternate for this, and this is like a year, 2, 5, 10-year long process, stop treating this as something to nail yourself to a crossover. Stop looking for people to validate it. Just don't talk about it. If you don't make it real, it makes it easier not to make it real for you. And you don't want this to be your situation. You don't want this to be your reality, and you don't want this to be real. So thanks for sticking around on this one. Again, this one's a bit more of a serious topic than I usually cover, but I thought it was important because as much as we have a lot of guys out there saying they're going their own way and life has given them a raw deal, well, some people really have raw deals and some people just haven't gotten up to the plate yet. And I thought it was very important to address that a lot of guys who are complaining about the world doing them wrong, a lot of them actually have that situation. And the people that complain to make it sound like they're so hard done by because they can't find a trad wife, an 18-year-old virgin, well, it lets you know there is some actual suffering out there and there's complaining out there, but those two spheres don't often cross. On that note, I'll leave you to it. Again, come check out Patreon. We talk about stuff usually not this serious, but no topic is off limits. We got a nice growing community. It's actually growing a lot larger, and we're having to add some more Q&As to the sessions. Anyways, come on in, check it out. It's the price of a cup of coffee, and I'll catch you on the next one. Cheers.